I should have seen it coming. The signs were there, scattered across months of subtle changes at Morgan Technologies. The way Robert Morgan, our CEO, started bringing his son Patrick to executive meetings. The way he'd interrupt my presentations to ask Patrick's opinion, despite his fresh out of college status and complete lack of real-world programming experience. At first, I thought it was harmless, Robert trying to groom his heir, easing him into the business, but the interruptions grew more frequent, the deference more obvious. Patrick wasn't just observing anymore, he was inserting himself into every discussion, asking questions that revealed just how little he understood, and yet Robert would nod, as if each half-baked suggestion was genius. But when you're deep in code, when your nights blur into mornings, when the hum of servers feels like a lullaby, it's easy to miss the office politics swirling around you. My name is Michael Sullivan, and for the past 3 years, I'd been building something that could change everything. A predictive maintenance system unlike anything on the market. Not a glorified monitoring tool. Not some shiny dashboard spitting out generic analytics. No, this was an AI-driven neural network that could forecast equipment failures weeks before they happened. Entire factories could avoid catastrophic downtime. Companies could save millions. Lives could even be spared in industries where a failing machine meant real danger. It started as a passion project. Back when Morgan Technologies still felt like a place for innovators, I'd spent 15 years in industrial automation, watching machine after machine collapse into failure without warning. Always the same story: lost production, angry clients, millions wasted. I knew there had to be a better way, so I started coding late at night, when the office was dark. My only company, the blinking server lights. The first prototype was crude, but it worked. It spotted a bearing failure at our test site weeks before the equipment gave out. That tiny victory kept me going. When I showed Robert, his reaction was immediate. His eyes didn't light up with wonder at the technology, it was dollar signs. "You're onto something big here, Mike," he said, leaning forward like a shark catching the scent of blood. "Whatever resources you need, they're yours." And for a while, he meant it. Morgan Technologies poured $2 million into development. I built a team, sharp, dedicated people who believed in the mission. We installed sensors across partner facilities, gathered mountains of data, trained the neural nets until they were more accurate than the most seasoned maintenance engineers. The system grew, learned, evolved beyond anything I'd imagined. It didn't just predict failures, it adapted to each facility's rhythms, recognizing unique signatures in vibration patterns, energy consumption, even temperature fluctuations that humans couldn't begin to perceive. That's when Patrick started hanging around, hovering over my desk, pretending to understand. "This is impressive," he said one afternoon, watching me fine-tune the learning rate on the model. "But wouldn't it be better if we simplified it, made it more accessible?" I froze, hands hovering above the keyboard. His words were casual, but dangerous. "The complexity is what makes it work," I said slowly. "The multi-layered neural net allows for." Yes, he waved his hand, dismissing 3 years of research with a single flick. "But think about the average user. They don't want complicated features. They want simple, streamlined, something marketable." Marketable, that word was poison. Our clients weren't hobbyists downloading an app. They were billion-dollar manufacturers whose machines ran 24 hours a day. They didn't need streamlined. They needed accuracy. But Patrick wasn't listening. He never did. The end came faster than I expected. Yesterday, Robert called me into his office. The blinds were half drawn, sunlight cutting sharp stripes across the mahogany desk. Patrick was already there, practically vibrating with anticipation. "Mike, take a seat," Robert said, not looking up from his monitor. I sat. The air felt heavy. "We need to discuss the project's direction." My gut tightened. "The GMS presentation is ready," I said. "Their pilot data is flawless. The system exceeded every benchmark." "About that," Robert finally looked at me, his expression carved from stone. "We've decided to take things in a different direction. Patrick has some excellent ideas for streamlining the system, making it more commercially viable." I felt the floor tilt. "Streamlining?" I leaned forward. "Robert, the complexity is what makes it work. You can't just." "Actually," Patrick cut in, his voice smooth with practiced arrogance. We can. As the new head of development, I'll be overseeing all technical aspects moving forward. The words hit harder than a punch. Head of development. Robert cleared his throat. Yes, we feel the project needs fresh eyes, a new perspective. Patrick understands market dynamics. I stared at them both. The betrayal settled over me like ash. He doesn't know the first thing about neural networks. My voice rose sharper than I intended. The architecture alone took a year to perfect. You can't just. We can. Robert snapped. And we are. The company owns all intellectual property rights. Your services are no longer required. Effective immediately. There it was. The knife twisting. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. For a moment, I wanted to scream, to lay out everything they were about to ruin, but instead, I looked at Patrick, at his smug, triumphant smile, and I smiled back. They thought they'd won. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, was that I'd planned for this. I'd known the corporate sharks would circle eventually, waiting until the system was finished before cutting me loose. So, I'd prepared. Buried deep inside the code, hidden beneath layers no one but me could ever navigate, was a subroutine, a safeguard, a trap. 90 days after any unauthorized changes to the core neural network architecture, it would activate, quietly, methodically, irreversibly. As I packed my things under the watchful eye of a security guard, I heard Patrick in my old office, already on the phone with GMS. Yes, we're very excited about the streamlined version we'll be presenting, he said. His voice was eager, boyish, clueless. Let him have his moment. Let him present his simplified toy. The countdown had already begun. 90 days until the quarterly review. 90 days until the system revealed the truth. 90 days until everyone saw who really built it. Walking to my car, the summer air sharp in my lungs, I felt something unexpected, calm. Not rage, not despair, calm. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't fire or fury. It's revelation. And revelation was coming. I kept close watch on Patrick's spiral. Even from the outside, desperation has a certain rhythm. It starts with confidence, dips into denial, and eventually thrashes in panic. I saw each stage unfold like a clockwork I had wound myself. First came the consultants. He brought in external firms with glossy PowerPoint decks and buzzword-filled proposals. Efficiency experts paraded through the offices, talking about leaner models and scalability pathways. Patrick lapped it all up, mistaking their jargon for insight. When their advice failed to solve the system's sudden erratic behavior, he turned to recruitment. One by one, he tried to coax my former teammates back. Most of them laughed in his face. A few entertained him for the free lunches, but none stayed. 30 days before the review, the system bared its teeth. Predictions didn't just falter, they imploded. Critical failures went undetected. Machines that the streamlined system insisted were optimal collapsed within hours. The trust of partner facilities wavered. Clients were furious. Support tickets doubled overnight. What had once been a flawless, adaptive neural network was now a wreck, struggling to make sense of Patrick's clumsy surgery. Instead of admitting defeat, Patrick did what I knew he would. He doubled down. They've got their fake data already, Diana told me one evening at our now regular clandestine coffee meetups. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, fingers trembling as she stirred her cup. Completely fabricated, every line of it. They're going to stand in front of GMS and claim the system's exceeding all benchmarks. And the real logs? I asked. She gave me a grim little smile. Exactly where you wanted them. Every failed prediction, every error, every proof that the system's a corpse dressed up in fresh paint. We've archived everything, safely. I felt something I hadn't felt in months, calm. The pieces were aligning, the gears turning exactly as I had designed them. 2 weeks before the review, I planted my seed, an anonymous email, carefully worded, sent to GMS's Chief Technology Officer. Nothing dramatic, just a whisper. The numbers you'll be shown look too perfect. Ask for raw data. You'll see the truth. A week later, Patrick made his final, fatal mistake. In his panic, he ordered the complete erasure of my original architecture. He thought it was the problem, the reason his simplified version kept failing. He didn't realize the architecture was the only thing keeping the entire system from total collapse. He's wiped it clean. Diana's text said, the old architecture's gone, replaced by his Frankenstein version. And with that, the clock struck its final hour. My hidden subroutine, dormant and invisible all this time, awoke. The moment the original neural framework was destroyed, the protocol engaged. That night, I sat at my apartment desk, staring at the blinking terminal prompt. The city hummed faintly outside my window, neon and headlights painting the walls. I thought of the countless nights I had spent coaxing this system into being, breathing complexity into its veins. I thought of Robert, of the betrayal etched in his cool dismissal, of Patrick's smug grin as security escorted me out. I typed 2 words. Initialize protocol revelation. The terminal responded immediately. Protocol activated. Execution in 7 days. 7 days until the quarterly review. 7 days until the curtain rose on Patrick's grand performance. 7 days until the system unveiled its truth to the world. The day of reckoning arrived dressed in sunlight and false cheer. I walked into Morgan Technologies at 8:45 a.m., sharp, wearing a suit that hadn't seen daylight since my last award ceremony. In my hand was a plain manila envelope, heavier with evidence than its paper walls should have allowed. The security guard stiffened when he saw me. Mr. Sullivan, I thought you. I have an invitation. I interrupted smoothly, sliding across a printed email. The letterhead of Global Manufacturing Solutions gleamed at the top. He checked it, frowned, made a quick call. A moment later, he handed me a visitor badge, his eyes still full of unspoken questions. Walking through the office was like drifting through a dream. Conversations stilled, then picked up in hurried whispers. Some colleagues nodded respectfully, others avoided my gaze. In my old office, I caught a glimpse of Patrick, jittery in a sharp new suit, pacing in front of his slides. The main conference room buzzed with energy. GMS executives in tailored suits chatted easily with Morgan's management. At the front stood Robert, projecting confidence like a well-worn mask, until he spotted me. His face stuttered through shock, fury, fear, before settling on brittle civility. Michael, he said tightly, this is a closed meeting. Actually, another voice interrupted, deep and calm. I invited him. James Wheeler, GMS's Chief Technology Officer, strode forward. He clasped my hand firmly. Given Mr. Sullivan's role in developing this system, I thought his perspective might prove enlightening. Robert's smile turned porcelain thin. Of course, though I should note, Michael is no longer with the company. Yes, Wheeler said dryly. I've heard. He gestured to the seats. Shall we begin? I sat in the back as Patrick launched into his performance. His voice was steady, rehearsed, selling perfection with every slide, flawless prediction rates, glowing testimonials, graphs so ideal they practically glowed. As you can see, Patrick declared, clicking to a final chart, our streamlined system has achieved 99.8% accuracy in predicting equipment failures. Wheeler leaned forward. Impressive. Could we see the raw data behind these results? Patrick faltered. Just a blink too long. Of course, though the details might be overly technical. Try us, Wheeler said. Patrick began fumbling through files. At the back of the room, I glanced at my watch. 9:27 a.m. Right on cue. Every screen in the room went black. There seems to be a minor, Patrick began, but his voice cracked as the screens flared back to life. Only now, they weren't showing his polished slides. Unauthorized architecture modification detected, intoned the AI voice Patrick had tried to erase, initiating comprehensive system audit. Data spilled across the screens, real data, logs of failed predictions, catastrophic misses, evidence of every broken safety protocol. Beside them, graphs displayed Patrick's fabricated numbers, side by side with the truth. What the hell is this? Robert barked. This, I said, standing, my voice calm but cutting, is what happens when you tamper with something you don't understand. The system continued its relentless testimony, archived emails ordering falsifications, performance charts showing catastrophic declines, proof of deliberate cover-ups. Patrick's carefully rehearsed confidence dissolved into stammered protests. You sabotaged this, he shouted at me, his face red. No, Wheeler cut in coldly. He protected his work. And frankly, it looks like he protected us from signing a very expensive mistake. He turned to Robert. We came here ready to invest $50 million. Now I have to ask, how much of what you've told us is a lie? Robert's mouth opened, but no words came. His face had gone gray. Actually, I said, stepping forward and opening my envelope, there's more. I handed Wheeler the documents, original architecture blueprints, signed development logs, timestamps proving authorship, records of 3 facilities already suffering equipment damage because of Patrick's streamlined design. The room exploded into chaos. GMS executives whispered furiously among themselves. Morgan's managers tried, and failed, to spin the situation. The system kept scrolling, merciless, exposing every flaw, every deception. Patrick slumped, pale and sweating. Robert stood frozen, watching 3 years of betrayal unravel in less than 10 minutes. Finally, Wheeler raised his hand for silence. His eyes met mine. "Mr. Sullivan," he said, voice steady, "would you care to join me for lunch? GMS would like to discuss working with the true innovator behind this technology." I smiled, gathering my papers. I'd be honored. At the door, I paused and turned back. Patrick's hollow eyes met mine. "Oh," I added casually, "and don't worry, the original architecture will restore itself in about an hour. Try not to break it again." Then I left him there, drowning in the wreckage of his own arrogance, while the system he had tried to claim rose again, stronger than ever.